Hey everyone, Mr. Johnson here. Welcome to week 15. Are you just like me at this moment? You can literally see the finish line. Hopefully you're not drowning in a lot of work right now. I know finals week, dead week is just a lot, and I'm not sure how it's going for you because everything's online. I'm hoping you're doing okay. If you're anything like how I've been these last few weeks, I know I can't see your faces or your expressions right now, but a lot of you might be sad, might be a little anxious or just unsure right now. I just want to continue to encourage you that we're going to make it. We are going to be okay. And actually right now I think I just recently read some stuff in the news. It looks like the country is slowly, at least in the United States, slowly making progress to reopen, and that cases of COVID-19 have started to decrease, which is exciting. It's encouraging. But I know this time has been hard for a lot of you, and so I encourage you to push through, and you're going to make it. We're going to be okay. And to encourage you, let you know, summer's almost here. I know you're probably thinking, what am I going to do for summer? But at least the idea of not having classes hanging over you and assignments, oh, it just sounds wonderful. I can't wait for all the cool things I'll get to do in my apartment. Not things that I've already been doing, right? But summer's almost here. Maybe you'll be like the squirrels at Purdue, just reaching for that last walnut, or just doing all the cool poses that they always love to do. Anyway, I want to try to be respectful of your time and get through this as quickly as possible. What I want to do in this video is just kind of review. I'm going to basically cover all week's content in this one video, so you just have one thing to watch. I'm going to cover very briefly what you need to know for the group presentation, and then I'm also going to go ahead and just kind of show you what the week is going to look like. In fact, how about I just show you that very quickly right now. If you've been looking at our syllabus, our course schedule, we are now in week 15. So there's a few things we're covering this week. Presentation situations, basically what it will look like. And I'm going to have to adapt this, right, because we're doing it online. And I will explain that partly this week, and I will send out one more video next week explaining this process. So you'll be all ready. You will know what you need to do. It's going to be okay. I'm going to just skip this part of the schedule. You're not going to have a Q&A session, so it doesn't make any sense for me to talk about it. I know some COM 114 classes will do it, but I'm just not going to do it because it'll just be easier for us. Basically, if you ever have a question, it's just great to repeat the question that someone asks you and then try to ask follow-up questions. That's basically the gist of what we do in Q&A. Someone asks you a question, you repeat it, and then you get clarification, and then you answer their question. That's the gist of Q&A. It's not that much. But to kind of give you an idea, this is what we'll be focusing on here. We're going to have some group conferences. I'm going to meet with each of you, your groups this week, with Zoom meetings. I'm going to explain how that works. You're just going to review Chapter 13, and you're going to turn in your persuasive reflection paper. Like you did a reflection paper for the narrative speech at the beginning of the semester, you're doing one at the end of the semester just to kind of gauge your progress so far, and that is under Unit 4, under the persuasive speech. So this is what this week is going to look like right here. Just thought I'd give you that review very quickly. What I wanted to just very quickly focus on after that is the rubric for the group presentation and the individual presentation. I don't believe I showed you this in class. Again, they're on Blackboard if you're ever curious, but I just kind of wanted to briefly, very quickly show you. At this point, I've talked about the introduction probably more than you want. So if you haven't got the gist of it, make sure you have an attention getter, a credibility statement. What will be different about this presentation is that one person is doing the intro, right? Someone will probably do the introduction. 2 or 3 of you will probably do the body, and then maybe one of you will do the conclusion. It depends on how you'll spread it out, right? But the only thing that is different about this introduction is just making sure that whoever does the introduction, even though I know you're virtually separated from each other, you're setting up your videos as if I watched them all together, that you would all be in the same room, right? So whoever does the introduction just needs to make sure they introduce the group members. So, hi, my name is Mr. Johnson, and today I'm going to introduce Thing 1, Thing 2, and Thing 3. I don't know. You're just going to... That's a reference to a movie, if any of you don't know. So that would be an example. That would be something you could do. Make sure if you're the person for the intro, just introduce the people who are in your group. You're also going to have transitions like you normally do. How well is the body organized? How well is the problem that you're dealing with established and supported? How's the argument developed? Is it supportive and is it appropriate? Remember, you're using some persuasive appeals in this one too, right? We're putting everything together for this presentation. Everything you've done so far in this entire class is kind of coming together in this presentation. We're also asking, right, what is the solution that you're offering, and is it feasible? Is it practical? Is it something that could be done? I understand at this point that a lot of you, it's difficult to come up with, it's very difficult at this point to, being separated virtually, putting this together will be much more challenging, and I recognize that. I just want to let you know at this point, I recognize that this speech will be challenging just because it's weird and you're all separated. So I will be feasible and practical when it comes to this. But make sure you put some thought at least into this and are advocating under normal circumstances if what you're advocating for can be done. And then you're going to ask, make sure there's, have credible sources. You also want to make sure you have your number of citations, which in this one, 5 oral citations. That's what you need to have for this speech. That's 5 different sources. And that probably means that each of you will end up doing 1, maybe 2, depending on how many you end up doing. But I would at least like to make sure everyone who does their part has at least 1 citation. But I understand if you're doing the intro or conclusion that you wouldn't cite 1 perhaps. But make sure that at least these 5 get done. Then you'll recognize the last part of the group rubric is the visual aids. I'm gonna be sending out another video explaining how you'll do the visual aids, but it'll basically kind of be like a larger version of what we did for the persuasive presentation, where you will submit your slides and I will watch them as you do your portion of the group presentation, and you will also be pointing to them during your speech with whatever technology you have available. So basically consider it like you are doing it the way that you did for your persuasive presentation, but you are just adding on the idea that there will be maybe 2 or 3 or 4 other people speaking, and you're just in an order. The last thing I'll just mention is make sure you have good transitions between one another. So whoever does the introduction, if I was the introduction, I would say, now I'd like to pass it on to Jeff, and Jeff is going to tell you about this next part. Jeff, and then you end your video, right? Then you end your video. Then Jeff's video comes on, and Jeff says, "Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. As Mr. Johnson was saying, blah, 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 blah. This leads me to this." It could be just very brief, very short, blah, 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 blah. Then Jeff ends his video by saying, "Now that we've covered this, I'd like to pass it on to Carly, and Carly's going to tell you about blank." Then you end your video. Then Carly starts her video and says, "Thank you so much, Jeff." And then she proceeds to tell what is going on. And then when she ends her video, she says, "Now that we've talked about this, I'd like to pass it on to Steve." You get the idea. That's how the presentation is going to happen. If you remember, I showed you, I think the first week we came on for quarantine, Jen Hall gives an example under Unit 5 of what I'm talking about. This is something that you could reference. She does a video, then her daughter does one, then her other daughter one, and just sequentially they do that. So that is the group presentation one. The individual one is basically like what every other delivery section has been. I'm going to analyze your eye contact, your posture, your gesture, your movement, your etc. And then what I will do I will submit this rubric to you individually, and you'll see what your individual score was, what I believe the overall group score was, and then if you participated in, well, you all participated in the first group briefing, so great. And depending on what I hear from your peers, as long as you were part of the second group briefing, you will also get those 10 points. 150 points possible. It's the final presentation. This is kind of covering it. I'll talk a little bit more about it next week, but that's the gist of what you need to know for this one. So I'm going to close this down. Yay, getting rid of stuff. So that explains kind of the group presentation process. Let's come back to the group slides. This just kind of reviews everything I just told you. So important factors to think when you're doing your presentations virtually. Make sure you have a good hook, which is a statistic. It's a startling fact, it's a short story, something engaging, right? Don't just open up and say, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and today I want to tell you about blank." Make sure it's interesting. We're practicing this, so make sure that you do that. give a credibility statement, which could be something because it's going to be your whole group, right? Our group has done a lot of extensive research on this, and we're all Purdue students, and so we think this is so important to talk about, something like that, right? Tell them why it's a relevant topic, why this is important, give a review of your thesis and main points, and then introduce your group members, like I said. Have those transitions, signal to Jeff, signal to Carly, signal to Stephen, right? I made those people up. Have good visual aids, submit those on Blackboard, and then you will have your 5 oral citations. Again, there will be another video that just kind of reminds you of these things, but this is just to look forward to. This is what you need to know. So you've been probably wondering, with that under your belts, so what are you doing for this week? Well, you're watching literally this video right now, so the only video of the week is watch this Welcome to Week 15 video. Review Chapter 13. This has some important information on just group presentations, period. I would hope that you know that information just going into this chapter. You might be like some peers or myself who haven't read a lot of their assignments, depending on what you've been doing, just because this is a crazy time. But I encourage you to at least read Chapter 13 because that's important information. And then for this week's, specifically what you're doing this week, right? Everything I just shared with you is kind of foreshadowing what the group presentation will be. Here's what you need to focus on this week. This video, which you're watching right now, Chapter 13, and then you are going to submit presenting as a group activity sheet. Wow, that's a mouthful. Basically, it's kind of like what you did in week 13 when you had those persuasive worksheets, right? And if you are on Blackboard, I have included it right here under the week 15 board. It is this sheet. You open it up, and yes. And when I open it up, it's very simple. It's actually, this one will be pretty simple and easy, but you're just going to get a little bit of research experience practicing at this. You individually are going to go on, locate an article, a video, or a website, or some sort of online source that has information related to presenting as a group. Think about how you and your classmates might be able to integrate this information as a source into your presentation, right? You don't have to, but just kind of go in with that mindset. Find a source that could be helpful to you and your peers. Then what I want you to do is create just one slide, 16 by 9 PowerPoint slide or whatever the dimensions are, right? Don't shrink it down to a postcard note. Make it a normal slide. Summarize those 3 helpful pieces of information offered in your one source. And then put a header with the title, the author, publishing organization, the date, if available, your name, at least 3 bullet points with helpful information, and a hyperlink to the source. Then what you'll do is you're just going to come in and upload it to here. You're literally just going to click on it, and you will upload your slide to here. You'll browse your computer. You'll find your thing. You'll attach your slide. You'll put the thing in the thing, and then the other thing, right? That's how you'll submit it. You'll notice that I give you 4 activity points for it, and this accounts for attendance. So if you don't do this, this would be as if you were missing class. So make sure you do that and that you get those cool 4 activity points. Let me see, is there anything else you need to do for this? Oh yeah, the last thing, well, that wasn't what I wanted. The last thing to note for this assignment is that once you've submitted it, I will send out a master list of all your slides to the whole class. So that all of you can review it when you're putting together your presentations. Just consider it as like a helpful source if you want it. You don't have to look at your peer's source. I'll just send it out as like an announcement, but that will be just there for you in case you want it. So, you're reviewing this video. You will review Chapter 3. You're going to turn in this, that activity sheet that I was just telling you about by Friday, April 24th by 11:59 p.m. And then you're going to submit your reflection essay, which is just a 1 to 2 page response. Literally, if you are in the, well, this is group 5. If you are in the Unit 4 folder, it's just right here. Literally open up. It's exactly, there's a few different questions, I think, from the first one, but literally use these questions to write an essay. I'm going to just double say this. I'm going to say it again. Double say it. Say it again. It needs to be an essay. Don't write underneath here. Don't create, it needs to be a coherent essay, right? I'm not looking for anything super fancy, but we'll put an essay together. Some of you wrote in just answers to them and they were very short. I need you to put together a 1 to 2 page double-spaced reflection, and you will lose points if you just answer the questions but don't put it in an essay format. It's really easy to do. You shouldn't have a problem being able to do that, but that is what you'll do. So you're doing that, and then the last thing, I know this feels like a lot, but it really isn't a lot. Honestly, all these things can be done pretty quickly. It just might feel like a lot because it looks like a lot, but it's not. The last thing you're going to do, and this is what I want to spend the rest of our time discussing, is just attend a 15 to 20 minute Zoom group conference call with me. And what I've done is I have gone onto Blackboard, and under the weekly checklist, I have basically assigned you to a day. I'm doing them all on Friday, and you'll probably notice, well, if I'm in the second class, I'm not here. This is the only thing literally that's different about if you're watching this from my first section or my second section. You can only see your section, so you'll see specifically that I've included your names with your groups on specific times. Basically, before that time, I will email each of you as a group and just send you the Zoom link. Here's the cool thing. It's optional. If you don't want to do it, I totally understand. This is for you as a resource. I kind of want to see your faces again, so there's part of a selfish part of me that just really wants to see you again one more time before the semester ends, but I totally understand if this isn't something that you want to do. But I will send it to you. I probably should clarify it. When I say that it's optional, I at least need to meet with one or two of you, actually. Let me say that again. I need to at least meet with one or two of you, and here's why. I need to be able to gauge from you guys if there are any people who might not necessarily be participating in the group, or if you have any questions that just can be answered better in person. So actually, I need at least two of you to at least come to these groups. Even if it's one, I can work with it, but at least if it's a few of you, right? That way, we can I can talk to you about your group briefings and give you answer any questions in person or virtually if you have any. So ignore what I said about it being optional. Please at least have one or two of you guys do this. I'm asking that so that you can have the resources you need moving forward so that you feel well prepared next week. It's only a 15 to 20 minute call. It's not going to be long, so just do it. I'd love to see you guys, but if for some reason, this is one last thing I'll say, some of you are just all in really different time zones. I've tried to use the times that we would use for our classes, so if you're my second section, try to do from 4:30 to 5:30. If you're my first section, 3:30 to 4:30. Obviously, it's hard to fit you all in that time, and I want to make sure you have the time to talk with me if you need it. So there's a few of you where you have an odd time slot, so if you want to negotiate that time with me and change it, just email me and let me know. I've also tried to take note that some of you are not in the United States right now. Some of you are in India. Some of you are, I think, in Malaysia, or I can't remember. There's a few of you who are in other places in parts of the world. Or you're in California, where I wish I could be, and you're 3 hours behind, right? So I tried to make these times reasonable. But again, if you have any questions and you don't want that time slot, let me know. Just email me. I think that's it. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else. It feels like there's a lot that's going on this week, but it really isn't. The reason I wanted to take a little bit more time with this video is just so that you can feel more prepared. You can end the semester well. You're going to make it. We're going to be okay. But if you do have any questions, if any of this that I just shared with you doesn't make sense, because I know it was a lot of stuff, just email me. Again, this video, review chapter 13, submit that group activity sheet, which is right here, submit your reflection essay, and attend a group meeting with me. That's all you're doing this week. I know it looks like a lot, but it isn't really a lot. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will hopefully see you all on Friday.